My phone buzzed during the most important presentation of my career. 20 pairs of eyes watched me at the conference table in Clayton Children's Hospital, waiting for me to continue my proposal for the new pediatric trauma unit. I glanced at the screen. Unknown number. My hand trembled as I reached for it. Some primal instinct screaming that I shouldn't answer. But I did anyway. Hello? Sweetheart. That voice slithered through the speaker. Oil and venom mixed together. I hear my little girl is living quite the fancy life in the big city. Penthouse apartment. Luxury car. Corner office. Daddy's so proud. Victor's laugh was like broken glass scraping against my spine. It's time you paid back the man who raised you. Don't you think, after all? I gave you everything. My blood turned to ice. 12 years. 12 years of silence. Of building walls high enough that the past couldn't climb over them. And now, in one phone call, those walls were crumbling. I'll be in touch with details about how you can show your gratitude, he continued. Unless you want everyone at that fancy hospital to know what kind of ungrateful daughter you really are. The line went dead. My hand was shaking so badly, I nearly dropped the phone. But I looked up at those 20 faces, forced my expression into calm professionalism, and said, "Mi apologies." Where were we? If you're watching this story, please hit that like button and subscribe, because what I'm about to tell you is going to get intense. Drop a comment below if you've ever had to face the demons from your past. Now, let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. I was 10 years old when my mother died. Ovarian cancer. Stage 4. Gone in 6 months. I remember standing at her funeral in a black dress that was too small, watching my father Victor stare at the casket with empty eyes. I thought he was grieving. I didn't know yet that he was calculating how much of her life insurance he could drink away. 3 months after Mom's funeral, I came home from school to find Victor passed out on the couch. An eviction notice crumpled on the floor beside him. The TV was still on, volume blasting, showing a poker tournament, 53 empty beer bottles. I'd counted them while making myself a sandwich with the last 2 slices of moldy bread. "Dad," I shook his shoulder gently. "Dad, we got a letter from the landlord." He jerked awake, eyes wild and bloodshot. "What the hell do you want?" "The rent. They're saying we have to pay or we'll lose the house." Victor laughed. This horrible, bitter sound. "Your mother's insurance. Gone. All of it. You know what I learned tonight? Harper, that kings beat queens. Every single time." He grabbed another beer from somewhere beside the couch. "Just like life. Kid. Just like life." That's when I realized Mom's life insurance, the money that was supposed to take care of us, was gone. $50,000. Gambled away in 90 days. But things got worse when Serena showed up. I'll never forget that night. I was doing homework at the kitchen table, surviving on dry cereal because the electricity had been shut off again and the milk had spoiled. Victor burst through the door at 2 in the morning with this skeletal woman hanging on his arm. "Harper, baby." He was slurring badly. "Come meet your new mommy." The woman looked at me with dead eyes, track marks running up both arms like a roadmap to hell. She smiled, showing yellowed teeth. "So, this is the little princess I've heard so much about." "Dad, what are you talking about?" "Serena's moving in. Isn't that great, you finally get a mother again." I wanted to scream that I had a mother, that she'd been dead for 3 months and he was already replacing her with this stranger. But I'd learned by then that screaming only made things worse. Serena proved exactly what kind of person she was within the first week. I came down for breakfast one morning to find her eating a bowl of cereal, the last of the box I'd bought with my babysitting money. "That's mine," I said quietly. She looked up at me, milk dripping from her spoon, and smiled. "Everything in this house belongs to your daddy now. And what's his is mine." She took another deliberate bite. "Maybe if you were nicer to me, I'd share. I bought that with my own money." "Prove it." She dumped the rest of the box in her bowl. "Oh wait, you can't. Now get to school before you're late. Wouldn't want people thinking your daddy doesn't take care of you." That was just the beginning. A week later, I spent 3 hours working on a science project. A model of the solar system made from foam balls and wire. I left it on the kitchen counter to dry overnight. The next morning, it was destroyed. crushed into pieces. Paint smeared across the counter. Serena, I ran to find her smoking in the living room. My project. What happened to my project? She blew smoke in my face. Oh, that knocked it over getting a midnight snack. Accidents happen. That wasn't an accident, you destroyed it on purpose. Prove it, she said again. That same dead smile. Besides, who's Victor going to believe, his girlfriend or his whiny brat? She was right. When I tried to tell Victor, he just shrugged. Serena said it was an accident. Harper, stop being dramatic. Make another one. The science fair is tomorrow. I don't have time to make another one. His hand cracked across my face before I even saw it coming. Don't raise your voice at me. You think I don't have enough problems without you crying about some stupid school project. I went to school the next day with a bruise on my cheek and no project. Got a zero. When my teacher asked what happened, I lied. I dropped it getting out of the car. But Serena's cruelty wasn't just about destroying my things. It was calculated, designed to hurt. Like the day I came home to find her wearing my mother's wedding ring. Where did you get that? My voice was barely a whisper. Serena held up her hand, admiring how the diamond caught the light. Your daddy gave it to me. Said I deserved something nice. Said your mama would have wanted me to have it. That's a lie. Mom wanted me to have it, she told me before she died. Well, she's not here anymore. Is she? Serena's smile was cruel. And little girls don't get to wear diamonds. Besides, Victor needed the money more than you needed a keepsake. We pawned it yesterday. Got $300. Bought some really good stuff with it, too. I lunged at her then. 14 years old and not thinking straight. Serena screamed bloody murder. And Victor came running. He grabbed me by the hair and slammed me against the wall. What the hell is wrong with you, attacking Serena like some kind of animal? She sold Mom's ring. She said you sold Mom's wedding ring. Victor's face went cold. That ring was mine to do with as I pleased. Your mother's dead. Harper. Dead. And the living need money more than the dead need jewelry. Now apologize to Serena. I won't. The beating that followed left me unable to go to school for 2 days. Serena watched with satisfaction from the doorway, smoking her cigarette, occasionally offering helpful suggestions. Hit her harder, baby. She needs to learn respect. After that, I learned to keep my mouth shut. I became a ghost in my own home, slipping in and out unnoticed. But Serena still found ways to torment me. She'd steal money from my backpack, then tell Victor I'd stolen from her. She'd eat my school lunch, leaving me nothing. Once, she locked me out of the house for 6 hours in the middle of winter while Victor was passed out. When I finally got back inside, hypothermic and crying, she looked at me and said, "Oh, were you out there? I thought you were at a friend's house." My mistake. Then she went back to watching TV. The worst was when I was 11. Victor came home from a poker game, completely wasted, and couldn't make it to the bathroom. He vomited all over the hallway floor, then passed out in it. At 2 a.m, Serena shook me awake. Your daddy made a mess. Clean it up. Why can't you clean it? Because I'm not his slave. You are. Now get up before I get Victor's belt. So I cleaned vomit off the bathroom floor at 2 a.m, gagging the whole time, while Serena supervised from the doorway. Make sure you get it all. If I see one spot in the morning, you're not eating for a week. But there was one thing they couldn't take from me, my mind. I spent every moment I could at the school library, devouring books like they were food. Mrs. Patterson, the librarian. I started leaving her favorite books on my usual table. Harper, dear, you're here even more than I am, she said one afternoon. Everything all right at home? Everything's fine. I lied automatically. I just really love reading. She didn't believe me. I could see it in her eyes. But she didn't push. She just kept leaving books for me, kept letting me stay until closing time, kept giving me a safe place to exist. By 14, I'd started babysitting for neighbors, collecting cans and bottles, doing anything to earn money. I had a plan. Graduate high school. Get a scholarship. Get out. Forever. I just needed to save enough for application fees, for a deposit on a dorm room, for books, $217. That's what I had in a shoebox under my mattress. Every single dollar represented hours of work, of survival, of hope. Then I came home early from school one day. The door was unlocked, which was strange. I walked in to find Victor and Serena on the couch. My shoebox opened between them. My money spread out like a fan. They were counting it, dividing it into piles. That's 20 for you. 40 for me. Serena was saying, we can get the good stuff tonight. Not that cheap garbage. My world stopped. What are you doing? Victor looked up. Not even guilty. Just annoyed. Oh, good. You're home. We need to talk about your contribution to this household. My contribution, I couldn't breathe. That's my money. I earned it. Nothing in this house is yours. Victor said, his voice flat and cold. Everything here belongs to me. I own this house. I bought your clothes. I put food in your stomach. What food? The words exploded out of me. There's never any food. The electricity is shut off half the time I take care of myself. That money is mine. I earned every cent. Serena stood up. Her face twisted into something ugly. Listen to this ungrateful little bitch. After everything we've sacrificed for you. Sacrificed. I was shaking now. Years of fear giving way to rage. What have you sacrificed? You steal from me. You starve me. You make my life hell every single day. We gave you a roof over your head, Victor stood, advancing on me. We could have thrown you in foster care when your mother died. Could have let the state deal with you. But we kept you. Fed you. Clothed you. Mom kept me. Mom fed me. Mom loved me. I was screaming now. Tears streaming down my face. You did nothing but destroy everything she built. You drank away her insurance money. You brought this monster into our house. You let her torture me. Victor's fist caught me across the face before I finished the sentence. The world exploded into stars in pain. I crashed into the wall. Tasted blood. Felt my lips split open. Don't you ever disrespect your parents like that? He snarled, grabbing my hair and pulling me up. We took you in. We gave you everything. And this is how you repay us, by hoarding money, by lying, by disrespecting Serena. Let go of me, I tried to fight back, clawing at his hands. But I was 14 and 90 pounds, and he was a grown man fueled by rage and alcohol. Serena watched from the couch, actually smiling. That's right. Baby, show her who's boss. Little brat needs to learn her place. Victor hit me again. And again. My ribs. My back. My face. I stopped fighting and just tried to protect my head. Somewhere in the chaos, I heard Serena cheering him on. Heard her laugh when I cried out. When it was over, I was on the floor. Ribs screaming. Lip bleeding. And Victor was standing over me with my money clutched in his fist. Get out, he said, his voice suddenly quiet. What I couldn't have heard him right. Get out of my house. He threw my shoebox at me. It hit my chest and bounced off. You think you're so smart, so independent. Think you can survive on your own. Then do it. Get out. I looked up at him through tears and blood. Dad. Please. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. Too late for sorry. You want to accuse me of being a bad father. Fine. I'll show you what no father looks like. Get out. It's raining. I could hear it pounding on the roof. And it's freezing. Victor grabbed me by the arm and hauled me to my feet. I don't care if it's raining fire and brimstone. You've got 60 seconds to get out before I throw you out. Victor. Baby. Maybe that's too harsh, Serena said, but I could hear the glee in her voice. She's just a kid. She wants to be an adult. She can live like one. 50 seconds. Harper. Please. Dad. I'm sorry. I'll do anything. 40 seconds. I stumbled to the door, my legs barely working. Serena appeared with my thin windbreaker. The one with the broken zipper that I'd been meaning to replace. Here you go. Sweetheart. She cooed, her voice dripping with false concern. Wouldn't want you to catch cold? Then she leaned in close and whispered, This is what you deserve. You ungrateful little bitch. Should have shown more respect. 30 seconds. Victor called, Dad. Please. 20. I don't have anywhere to go. 10. 9. 8. I grabbed the jacket and ran. Behind me, I heard Serena's laughter and the sound of the door slamming shut, then the deadbolt clicking into place. I stood on the porch in the freezing January rain, homeless at 14, with nowhere to go and no one to call. My face was numb, and not just from the cold. I was numb everywhere, inside and out. Like my body had decided feeling anything was too dangerous. I walked for what felt like hours. No destination, no plan. Just moving because stopping meant accepting that my father had just thrown me away like garbage. That I was alone. That everything I'd survived had led to this moment, standing in the rain, with nothing but the clothes on my back and bruises blooming across my skin. My feet eventually carried me to Maplewood Avenue. I didn't consciously choose the destination, but somehow I ended up in front of Mrs. Eleanor Morrison's small blue house. The porch light was still on at 11 p.m. Like a beacon in the darkness. Mrs. Morrison was a retired social worker I'd babysat for a handful of times. She always paid me extra, always made sure I ate to dinner before I left, always asked questions that made me uncomfortable. Harper, honey, is everything all right at home? You can tell me if it's not. I know what signs to look for. I'd always lied. Everything's great. Mrs. Morrison, my dad's doing really well. We're fine. Now I stood on her porch with frozen fingers, trying to work up the courage to knock. What would I even say? What if she turned me away? What if she called Victor? What if... The door opened. Mrs. Morrison stood there in her bathrobe, her gray hair in curlers, and took one look at me. Her face transformed through a dozen emotions in seconds: shock, horror, fury, and finally, fierce determination. Harper Vance. Her voice was steel-wrapped in velvet. Get in this house right now. Mrs. Morrison. I'm sorry. I didn't know where else to go. I can leave if you will do no such thing. Inside. Now. She pulled me through the doorway and I finally broke. 14 years of holding it together. Of surviving. Of pretending everything was fine. Shattered all at once. I collapsed on her entryway floor and sobbed like the terrified child I was. Mrs. Morrison didn't try to make me stop crying. She just sat down beside me, held me close, and let me fall apart. When I'd cried myself out, she helped me to my feet. Bathroom first. We need to clean those cuts and document them. Then you're going to tell me everything. And I mean everything. Harper. No more lying to protect him. Understood? I nodded, unable to speak. She photographed my injuries with a camera. I later learned she kept specifically for cases like mine. Split lip. Black eye forming. Bruises on my ribs. My back. My arms. She documented every single mark, her face growing harder with each photo. How long? Harper, she asked quietly. How long has this been going on? Since Mom died. 4 years. And no one at school noticed. No teachers, no counselors. I got good at hiding it. Wore long sleeves. Kept my head down. Made excuses. Mrs. Morrison's hands were shaking as she put down the camera. That changes tonight. Victor Vance just made the biggest mistake of his miserable life. She looked at me with eyes that had seen too much suffering and decided not to look away. Harper, I want you to listen to me very carefully. You are not going back to that house. Not tonight. Not ever. Do you understand? But he's my dad. I don't have anyone else. You have me, she said simply. I spent 40 years as a social worker, watching kids fall through the cracks, constrained by bureaucracy and budget cuts, and parents who knew how to work the system. I'm retired now. No bureaucracy. No rules except my own. And my rule is simple. Any child who shows up at my door bleeding and homeless gets a second chance at life. You're staying here, and we're going to make sure Victor never hurts you again. And that's exactly what she did. Mrs. Morrison didn't just give me shelter. She gave me something I'd forgotten, existed, safety. Real. Genuine safety. The kind where you don't wake up wondering if today's the day things get worse. Over the next month, she worked magic I didn't know was possible. Contacted social services. Presented documentation of my injuries. Built an airtight case. Victor and Serena didn't even fight it. When the caseworker showed up at their door, Victor just shrugged. Kid's more trouble than she's worth anyway. He told them. Someone else can deal with her drama. That's how little I meant to him. After 4 years of abuse, I was just inconvenient. But Mrs. Morrison, she looked at me like I was worth fighting for. On the day she became my legal guardian, she sat me down at her kitchen table over hot chocolate and homemade cookies. Harper, I need you to understand something. What happened to you wasn't your fault. Not your mother dying. Not your father's abuse. Not Serena's cruelty. None of it. You were a child who needed protection. And the adults in your life failed you. But that stops now. Thank you for saving me. I whispered. You saved yourself by surviving this long. I'm just here to make sure you do more than survive. I'm here to help you thrive. She squeezed my hand. You are not defined by what they did to you. You are defined by what you do next. And Harper, I have a feeling you're going to do something extraordinary. She was right. With safety came possibility. With possibility came hunger. Not for food anymore, but for something bigger. I wanted to prove that I was worth the second chance she'd given me. I wanted to prove that all those years of suffering hadn't broken me, that I was more than my father's victim. So I worked. I studied like my life depended on it because, in a way, it did. Education was my weapon, my armor, my escape route. I graduated top of my class with a perfect 4.0 gigapascals, giving the valedictorian speech to hundreds of people while Victor sat in prison for a parole violation and missed the whole thing. Mrs. Morrison was in the front row, crying proud tears. That's my girl, she whispered when I came off stage. That's my extraordinary girl. The full scholarship to State University was just the beginning. I worked 3 jobs anyway, driven by a terror that it could all disappear. Washed cars at Morgan's dealership on weekends, cleaned offices for a janitorial company at night, waited tables at Rosie's Diner during summer breaks. Mrs. Morrison kept trying to get me to slow down. Harper, honey, you're going to burn yourself out. You're allowed to enjoy being young. Go to a party. Make friends. Have fun. I can't, I told her, stacking my textbooks for an all-night study session. If I slow down, if I let my guard down for even a second, everything could fall apart. I need to stay focused. What you need is balance. I'll have balance when I'm successful enough that no one can ever hurt me again. She sighed, but didn't push. She understood that some wounds take longer to heal. I majored in healthcare administration because I'd seen too many kids like me fall through the cracks. Too many overworked social workers. Too many underfunded programs. Too many children who needed saving and didn't get it. I wanted to be part of fixing that broken system. College was relentless. 4 years of studying while others partied. Working while they slept. Surviving on coffee and determination. I graduated summa cum laude, then pushed straight through to my master's degree. By the time I was 25, I had my MBA in healthcare management and 3 job offers from major hospitals. I chose Clayton Children's Hospital. It was the best pediatric hospital in the region, the place where I could make the biggest difference. I started as a junior administrator, but I had no intention of staying junior. Within a year, I was managing a department. Within 2 years, assistant director of operations. By 26, I had a corner office, a 6-figure salary, and influence over decisions that affected hundreds of staff and thousands of young patients. I bought a penthouse apartment on the 20th floor. All glass and steel and clean lines. No clutter. No chaos. Nothing that reminded me of that house on Ashland Street. I bought a silver BMW. Not because I cared about cars, but because it represented everything Victor said I'd never be, never have, never achieve. I built a life that was the polar opposite of my childhood. Order instead of chaos, success instead of survival, control instead of fear. But here's what no one tells you about running from your past. You can build the tallest walls, fill your days with work and achievement. Surround yourself with all the markers of success, and you'll still be alone inside those walls. Working 70-hour weeks not because you have to, but because stopping means thinking, and thinking means remembering. I had colleagues, but not friends. I had dinner meetings, but not relationships. I was successful, respected, accomplished, and utterly, profoundly alone. Then I met Jordan Hayes. He was part of the hospital's security team. A former cop who'd moved into private security after a shooting incident left him disillusioned with the force. We met during a late-night lockdown drill when I was still in my office at 9 p.m. You know, the point of leaving work is actually leaving. Right. He'd appeared in my doorway, tall and solid, with dark eyes that missed nothing. I'm aware of the concept, I replied dryly. I'm just not interested in practicing it. He smiled, and something in my chest tightened. Jordan Hayes. I'm coordinating security for this drill. Mind if I check your office? That was the beginning. Jordan had a quiet steadiness that I found unsettling and attractive in equal measure. He noticed things. He noticed that I never talked about my family. He noticed that I flinched when someone raised their voice. He noticed that I worked myself to exhaustion because I was running from something. We started having coffee together. Casual conversations that slowly became deeper. I didn't tell him about Victor. Not at first. But Jordan was patient. And somehow, over months, the walls I'd built started to develop cracks. 6 months after we met, we were having dinner at a quiet Italian restaurant when he asked, Harper, why don't you ever talk about your past? I stared at my untouched pasta. Because it's not worth talking about. Try me. So I did. I told him about Victor. About Serena. About being thrown out in the rain. I told him about Mrs. Morrison saving me. I told him about the nightmares I still had. About waking up at 3 a.m. convinced I was back in that house. Jordan listened without interrupting. And when I finished, he reached across the table and took my hand. You're one of the strongest people I've ever met, he said quietly. And you deserve to be happy. Not just successful. Happy. It was the first time anyone had said that to me. Mrs. Morrison had told me I was strong, that I was capable, that I could do anything I set my mind to. But happy, that felt like a foreign concept. A luxury I couldn't afford. Jordan and I grew closer. He became my anchor. The person I could be vulnerable with. For the first time in my adult life, I started to imagine a future that included more than just work and achievement. Maybe, I thought, I could have what other people had. Maybe I could have love. Then Mrs. Morrison called on a Tuesday afternoon. I was in my office, reviewing budget reports, when my phone rang. Harper. Dear, I need to tell you something. Her voice was tight with worry. Victor contacted me last week. He wanted to know where you were, what you were doing. I told him nothing. Of course. But Harper. He was different. Sober. Focused. He said he'd heard you were doing well and wanted to reconnect. Ice water flooded my veins. What did you tell him? Nothing. I hung up on him. But sweetie, he knows you're at Clayton. I don't know how, but he mentioned it specifically. You need to be careful. I thanked her and hung up, then sat frozen in my chair. After 12 years, Victor was back. Not the drunk, violent Victor of my childhood, but something worse. A calculating Victor who wanted something from me. The messages started the next day. Unknown numbers. Texts that made my skin crawl. Heard you're making good money now. Your old dad could use a little help. Family takes care of family. Harper. Remember that. Would be a shame if people at work found out what kind of daughter you are. I blocked the numbers. But more kept coming. Victor had learned to text. Apparently, the threats escalated. He'd show up at the hospital. He'd tell everyone I was an ungrateful child who'd abandoned my elderly father. He'd make sure I lost everything I'd built. Jordan noticed my distraction immediately. What's wrong? I showed him the messages. His jaw tightened as he read through them. This is harassment. We can get a restraining order. On what grounds? He's my father. He hasn't threatened violence. He's threatening your career, your reputation. That's enough. Jordan's voice was calm, but I could see the anger in his eyes. Harper, you don't owe him anything. Not a cent. Not a second of your time. Nothing. I know that logically, I whispered. But there's still this part of me that's 14 years old and terrified of him. Jordan pulled me into his arms. That 14-year-old kid survived. She grew up into an incredible woman who doesn't have to be afraid anymore. But we need to be proactive. Let me help you. We upgraded my apartment security, installed cameras, changed my phone number. Jordan started running background checks, trying to figure out what Victor was up to. What he found wasn't reassuring. Victor had been in and out of jail for the past decade. DUIs, petty theft, assault. Serena had died 3 years ago of an overdose. Victor was living in a halfway house, working sporadically, and apparently desperately broke. He'd burned through every relationship, every opportunity, and now he'd decided I was his lottery ticket. The first direct confrontation came on a Saturday morning. I was grocery shopping, something normal and mundane, when I saw them in the parking lot. Victor and a woman I didn't recognize, waiting by my car. Victor looked older, grayer, but his eyes held the same predatory gleam. "Harper, there's my successful daughter." He spread his arms like he expected a hug. I stopped 10 feet away, my keys clutched in my fist. "Leave. Now, is that any way to greet your father? After all these years, you stopped being my father when you threw me out in the rain at 14. My voice was steady, even though my heart was hammering. "I don't know how you found me. And I don't care. Stay away from me." The woman stepped forward. She was younger than Serena had been, with bleached hair and desperate eyes. "Your daddy's been real sick. Honey, he needs help. Family helps family." "I have no family here," I said flatly. "Just 2 strangers harassing me in a parking lot." Victor's fake smile dropped. "You ungrateful bitch. After everything I did for you, everything you did, I felt something snap inside me. You beat me. You starved me. You threw me away. You did nothing for me except show me exactly what kind of man I needed to avoid. I raised you. I put a roof over your head. You cashed Mom's life insurance checks and drank them away while I went hungry." I was shouting now. "And I didn't care. Other shoppers were staring. You let Serena torture me. You stole my money. You hit me until I bled." Victor stepped forward, his hand raised, old instincts taking over. That's when Jordan appeared, seemingly from nowhere. He'd been following me, keeping watch without telling me. "Touch her and I'll break your arm," Jordan said quietly, positioning himself between us. His hand was on his phone. "I've already called the police. You have about 3 minutes to leave before they arrive." Victor backed up, but his face was twisted with rage. "This isn't over. You owe me. Harper, I'm going to make sure everyone knows what you really are." "A survivor," I called after him. "Someone who escaped an abuser. Go ahead. Tell everyone. I'm not ashamed anymore." But they didn't leave. Over the next 2 weeks, Victor and his girlfriend, whose name I learned was Crystal, escalated their harassment. They showed up at my apartment building, hassling the doorman. They called the hospital, claiming to be concerned family members. They posted on social media, painting me as a heartless daughter who'd abandoned her sick father. Jordan compiled everything, building a case. But I was losing sleep, jumping at shadows, waiting for the next attack. It was affecting my work, my health, my relationship. I felt 14 again, trapped and helpless. Then came the morning that changed everything. I was leaving my building, heading for my car, when Victor and Crystal stepped out from behind a pillar. But this time, they weren't just talking. "You're coming with us," Victor growled, grabbing my arm. "We're going to the bank, and you're going to write us a check." I tried to pull away, but his grip was iron. Crystal moved to my other side, blocking me in. "Don't make a scene. Harper, just come quietly." "Let go of me," I shouted, attracting attention from passers-by. "Ungrateful child," Victor hissed, dragging me toward a beat-up sedan. "After everything we sacrificed for you, that's when my self-defense training kicked in. The classes Jordan had insisted I take, the moves I'd practiced." I stomped on Victor's instep, drove my elbow into his gut, and when his grip loosened, I ran. I didn't get far. Crystal grabbed my hair, yanking me back. I screamed, genuinely terrified now. Victor was advancing again, his face purple with rage. Then Jordan was there, along with 2 other security personnel from the hospital. They must have been nearby. Watching, Jordan pulled Crystal off me while the others restrained Victor. "Call 911. Jordan ordered. "To Victor," he said. "You just committed assault and attempted kidnapping in front of multiple witnesses and security cameras. You're done." But Victor wasn't done talking. "She's my daughter. I have a right to see her. She owes me." "I don't owe you anything," I said, breathing hard, my scalp aching where Crystal had pulled my hair. A small crowd had gathered. "I survived you. That's all I owe myself. To keep surviving." The police arrived quickly. Jordan's call had been clear about the situation, but Victor and Crystal weren't ready to give up. They were screaming about parental rights, about ungrateful children, about how I'd stolen their money. "Actually," Jordan said calmly to the officers, "we'd like to file charges for assault, attempted coercion, and harassment. We have documentation going back 2 weeks, plus security footage from multiple locations." One officer looked at me. "Ma'am, do you want to press charges?" Every instinct screamed at me to just let it go, to avoid conflict, to make myself small and invisible, like I'd learned as a child. But I wasn't a child anymore. "Yes," I said clearly. "I want to press full charges." Victor's face went from red to white. "You can't do this to me. I'm your father." "You were never my father," I replied. "You were my abuser. And I'm done letting you hurt me." Jordan stepped closer. "There's more. Harper, I need you to trust me on this. Let's take this to the bank." I didn't understand at first. The police were here. Victor and Crystal were caught, but Jordan gave me a look that said, "Follow my lead." At the precinct, the officers asked if we wanted to make a formal statement. Jordan suggested we move to the bank where the initial attempted coercion was heading. They were trying to force her to withdraw money. "We have witnesses who saw the beginning of the attempt. It'll strengthen the case." So we all went to the bank. This bizarre parade of police, security personnel, an abuser, his girlfriend, and me. The bank manager took one look at our group and immediately ushered us into a private room. Jordan had me explain, on record, with witnesses, exactly what Victor had tried to do, not just today, but over the past weeks. The threats, the harassment, the attempts to extort money. Then he asked me to describe my childhood. And I did. In front of the police, the bank manager, Victor, and Crystal. I told the truth. All of it. The beatings, the starvation, being thrown out in the rain, every bruise, every night I went to bed hungry, every time I was forced to buy alcohol for a drunk father. Victor tried to interrupt. "That's not how it was. I was grieving. I did my best." "Your best included stealing a 14-year-old's savings," I asked. "Your best included letting your girlfriend destroy my schoolwork. Your best included beating me unconscious and throwing me out in January." Crystal tried a different tactic. "But you turned out fine. You're successful. You should be grateful." "I'm successful despite him. Not because of him," I said. "I'm successful because a woman named Eleanor Morrison gave me a real home. I'm successful because I worked 3 jobs while going to college. I'm successful because I refused to become him." The bank manager, an older woman named Patricia, had tears in her eyes. "I've heard enough," she said. "Mr. Vance. Ms. Crystal, if you attempt to contact Ms. Vance again for any reason, I will personally ensure that this bank's considerable legal resources are at her disposal. What you're describing is financial abuse and extortion." That's when Victor lost it completely. He lunged across the table, trying to grab my purse, shouting about the money he was owed. It took 2 officers to restrain him. Crystal started crying, begging, saying they were desperate. They needed help. "Then get help," I said coldly. "Get therapy. Get sober. Get jobs. But don't come to me. I'm not your ATM. And I'm not your second chance. You had a daughter who needed you. And you destroyed her. The woman sitting here now, you didn't make her. She made herself. They were arrested. Assault, attempted theft, harassment, stalking." Jordan's documentation made the case ironclad. As they were led away in handcuffs, Victor shouted one last time, "You'll regret this. You'll die alone. Nobody will ever love you. I watched him go, feeling nothing but relief. He's wrong, Jordan said quietly, taking my hand. You're already loved. The legal process took months. I hired a lawyer, not just to prosecute Victor and Crystal, but to ensure they could never contact me again. Jordan helped me gather evidence, including medical records from after that night I was thrown out. Mrs. Morrison's testimony, even old police reports from calls to our house that never resulted in action. The trial was brutal. I had to recount my childhood in excruciating detail, had to show photographs of injuries, had to relive trauma I'd tried to bury. Victor's lawyer tried to paint me as a vindictive daughter exaggerating her past. Crystal's lawyer claimed she was just trying to help her desperate boyfriend. But the evidence was overwhelming. Medical records don't lie. Mrs. Morrison's testimony was devastating. And when the prosecutor played the recording of Victor's threats from his voicemails, even the most skeptical juror looked convinced. I took the stand on a Wednesday afternoon. The prosecutor asked me to describe the worst night of my childhood. I could have talked about the night I was thrown out. Instead, I told them about a night when I was 11. I was sick with the flu. I said, I was running a fever, probably 103 or higher. I asked my father for medicine, and he told me to shut up and stop being dramatic. Serena laughed and said sick kids didn't deserve to eat. I spent that night on the bathroom floor, too weak to make it back to my room. In the morning, I walked myself to the emergency room. The hospital social worker asked where my parents were. I lied and said they were at work, that they didn't know I was sick, because even at 11, I knew that telling the truth might make things worse. The courtroom was silent. The prosecutor asked, "What happened after the hospital?" They sent me home with antibiotics and a note for my parents. Victor ripped up the note and flushed the pills down the toilet. He said I was faking it for attention. I had pneumonia within 3 days. Mrs. Morrison found me passed out in her yard, where I'd collapsed trying to get help. She took me back to the hospital, and that time, she made sure someone investigated. But nothing came of that investigation. Victor charmed the social worker. He said I was clumsy, that I'd wandered off while he was sleeping, that he'd been worried sick. They believed him. I was sent back home. I looked directly at Victor. He beat me that night for telling lies. I learned to stop asking for help. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. Guilty on all counts. Victor was sentenced to 5 years for assault, attempted coercion, and stalking, with mandatory addiction treatment. Crystal got 3 years as an accessory. The judge also granted me a permanent restraining order. As Victor was led away, he looked at me one last time. I thought I'd feel triumphant, but I just felt tired and, finally, safe. Mrs. Morrison threw her arms around me outside the courtroom. You did it, sweetheart. You stood up to the monster. I had help, I said, looking at Jordan. I couldn't have done it alone. You were never alone, Mrs. Morrison corrected gently. You were just taught to think you were. But look around. Harper, look at all the people who showed up for you. She was right. Jordan, Mrs. Morrison, colleagues from the hospital who'd testified about my character, even former teachers who'd written letters. I'd spent so long thinking I was solitary, independent, needing no one. But the truth was, I'd built a family along the way. I just hadn't recognized it. The weeks after the trial were strange. I felt untethered, like I'd been bracing for impact for so long that now, without the threat, I didn't know how to stand upright. I had nightmares where Victor escaped from prison. I jumped at unexpected phone calls. Jordan held me through panic attacks at 3 a.m. It's going to take time, he said during one of those sleepless nights. You spent your whole life in survival mode. Your brain has to learn that the danger is gone. What if it never feels gone, I whispered. Then we'll deal with that too. But Harper, you're allowed to rest now. You won. Not just in court. You won by becoming someone he could never destroy. I started seeing a therapist. Dr. Sarahchen, who specialized in childhood trauma. She helped me understand that my workaholism was a coping mechanism, that my perfectionism was armor, that my difficulty with relationships stemmed from learning young that people hurt you. Your father taught you that love comes with conditions? Dr. Chen said during one session, that you have to earn the right to be cared for. But Harper, you were a child. Children don't have to earn love. They deserve it simply by existing. Those words cracked something open inside me. I cried for the little girl I'd been, the one who'd never gotten to just be a kid. I grieved for the childhood I'd never had, the mother I'd lost, the father who'd chosen addiction over his daughter, but I also started to heal. Slowly, painfully, but genuinely. I cut back my work hours. I had dinner with friends. I let Jordan into the parts of myself I'd always kept locked away. I started to build a life, not just a resume. 3 months after the trial, I was offered a promotion. Director of Operations at Clayton Children's Hospital, overseeing all administrative functions. It was everything I'd worked for. The pinnacle of my career goals. I almost said yes immediately. Then I paused. Can I have 24 hours to think about it? My boss looked surprised. Harper Vance, asking for time to consider a promotion. But he agreed. That night, Jordan and I sat on my balcony, looking out over the city lights. What's holding you back? He asked. I don't know if I want it anymore. He admitted. I've spent my whole life chasing success, thinking it would make me feel worthy. But Jordan, I got justice. I won. Victor is in prison. And I still don't feel complete. What would make you feel complete? I thought about that 14-year-old girl, shivering in the rain with nowhere to go. I thought about Mrs. Morrison opening her door, offering shelter. I thought about all the kids out there right now, living in hell, waiting for someone to see them. I want to help, I said slowly. Not just as an administrator. I want to do something that matters. Something that would have mattered to me when I was that kid. Jordan smiled. Then do it. I turned down the promotion. Instead, I proposed something radical. I wanted Clayton Children's Hospital to partner with me in creating a program for pediatric patients who showed signs of abuse or neglect, a comprehensive support system that included medical care, counseling, legal advocacy, and temporary housing if needed. A safety net for kids who were falling through the cracks. The board was skeptical. It was expensive, complicated, and would require significant resources, but I'd learned to be persuasive. I presented data on the long-term costs of untreated childhood trauma. I brought in experts. I shared my own story, standing in front of those board members and admitting I was one of those kids who fell through the cracks. They approved a pilot program, the Harper Vance Initiative for Child Welfare. Mrs. Morrison cried when I told her the name. Your mother would be so proud, she said. Starting the program was the hardest work I'd ever done, but also the most rewarding. We hired social workers, therapists, and legal advocates. We trained hospital staff to recognize signs of abuse. We partnered with local shelters and foster programs. We created a safe space where kids could get help without fear. The first child we helped was a 9-year-old boy named Marcus. He'd come into the ER with a broken arm, and the ER doctor noticed too many old injuries. Marcus was terrified, convinced he'd be sent back to his abusive stepfather. I sat with him in the consultation room. This scared little boy who reminded me so much of myself. Marcus, I need you to know something. You did nothing wrong. Whatever happened to you, it wasn't your fault. But my stepdad says I'm bad. He says I deserve it when he hits me. Your stepdad is wrong. And I know he's wrong because someone used to tell me the same thing. My father hurt me too. For a long time, I believed it was my fault. But it wasn't. And what happened to you isn't your fault either. Marcus looked up at me with wide eyes. What happened to your dad? He went to prison. And I got to grow up safe and strong. Just like you're going to. We placed Marcus in a safe foster home while legal proceedings moved forward. His stepfather was arrested. Marcus started therapy. Started healing. 6 months later, I attended his adoption ceremony. His new parents were patient, loving people who understood trauma. Marcus ran up to me afterward. Miss Harper, I got a forever family. I hugged him tight, tears streaming down my face. You deserve a forever family, Marcus. Every kid does. The program grew. We helped dozens of children in the first year. The hospital saw the value and increased funding. Other hospitals started calling, wanting to replicate the model. I found myself traveling, speaking at conferences, training other administrators. But the work that mattered most was still the one-on-one moment, sitting with terrified kids, telling them they were worthy of safety and love. Seeing them heal, watching them transform from scared victims into confident survivors. Each child was a battle won against Victor, against every abuser who thought they could break someone's spirit. Jordan and I got engaged on a quiet Sunday morning. No grand gesture, no public proposal, just the two of us, drinking coffee on my balcony, and him saying, "I want to spend the rest of my life with you, building this, helping these kids, growing old together. What do you say?" I said yes without hesitation. For the first time in my life, I was letting someone in completely, trusting that they wouldn't hurt me. It was terrifying and exhilarating all at once. Mrs. Morrison helped me plan the wedding. It was small, just close friends and colleagues, held in the garden of the children's shelter we'd helped establish. Marcus was the ring bearer. Dr. Chen was there, beaming. My entire chosen family, the people who'd helped me become who I was. During the ceremony, the officiant asked if anyone wanted to speak. Mrs. Morrison stood up, dabbing her eyes. I met Harper when she was a broken child, who didn't believe she deserved to live. Today, I'm watching her marry a wonderful man, surrounded by the legacy of love she's built. Harper, you didn't just survive. You transformed your pain into purpose. Your mother would be so proud. I was crying too hard to speak, so I just mouthed, "Thank you," standing there with Jordan, looking out at the faces of people I loved and who loved me back. I finally felt it, that sense of completeness I'd been chasing. It wasn't about success or revenge or proving Victor wrong. It was about this: community, purpose, love. 2 years later, on a sunny afternoon in May, I stood at the ribbon-cutting ceremony for the Morrison Vance Center for Child Advocacy. It was a beautiful building, modern and warm, with bright colors and comfortable spaces, a place where scared kids could feel safe. Dozens of children we'd helped were there, along with their families, therapists, and advocates. The mayor gave a speech about the importance of protecting vulnerable children. Jordan stood beside me. Our 1-year-old daughter Sarah, named after my mother, balanced on his hip. When it was my turn to speak, I looked out at the crowd and felt overwhelmed with emotion. I was one of these kids. I began. I was scared, hurt, and convinced I was worthless. I survived because one person saw me and decided I mattered. Mrs. Morrison gave me a chance at a different life. This center exists to be that chance for as many children as possible. I paused, gathering my thoughts. My father taught me that I was nothing, that I deserved pain, that no one would ever want me. He was wrong about all of it. And to every child who's been told similar lies, I want you to hear this. You matter. You're worthy. You deserve safety, love, and every opportunity to become whoever you want to be. Your abuser doesn't get to define your story. You do. The applause was deafening. I cut the ribbon, and children poured into the center, exploring the art therapy rooms, the library, the play spaces, watching them laugh and run and just be kids. I felt a profound sense of peace. That evening, Jordan and I stood on our balcony again, Sarah asleep in her crib inside. "Are you happy?" he asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. "Yes," I said, surprised by how easily the word came. "I'm happy. No more nightmares about Victor. I still have them sometimes, but they're getting rarer. And when I wake up, I remember where I am, who I am. What I've built, he doesn't have power over me anymore." Jordan kissed my forehead. "You're incredible. You know that. I'm a survivor." I corrected. "And a lot of people helped me survive. Don't sell yourself short. You did the hard work. You made the choice to heal, to help others, to break the cycle." He was right. I had made those choices. Every single day. I chose healing over bitterness, purpose over revenge, Love over fear. It wasn't easy. Some days, I still struggled with feeling worthy of the life I'd built. But those days were becoming fewer. I think that's what recovery looks like. Not a straight line from pain to peace, but a gradual shifting of balance. More good days than bad. More moments of joy than sorrow. More faith in the future than fear of the past. Victor served his 5 years. I heard through my lawyer that he was released on parole. Part of me tensed when I got that news, waiting for the other shoe to drop. But days passed. Then weeks. Then months. No contact. No threats. The restraining order held. I'd heard he moved to another state, working odd jobs, living in subsidized housing. Serena's family had cut him off completely. He was alone, as he deserved to be. I felt no satisfaction in that. Just a distant, academic interest, like reading about a stranger in the news. On Sarah's 2nd birthday, Mrs. Morrison held my hand and said, "Harper, I need to tell you something. I'm sick. Pancreatic cancer. Stage 4. My world tilted. No. You're going to fight this. You're the strongest person I know. I'm 82 years old. Sweetheart, I've had a good life. And I got to see you blossom into someone extraordinary. That's enough for me." "It's not enough for me," I said, tears streaming. "You saved my life. And you made saving you the greatest gift of mine." She replied, "But Harper, I need you to promise me something. Don't let my death break you. You've worked too hard to heal. Grief is natural. But don't let it pull you back into darkness." I promised, even though I didn't know how I'd keep it. Mrs. Morrison died 3 months later, surrounded by people who loved her. I gave the eulogy, barely holding myself together. Eleanor Morrison saw children that society had given up on and refused to look away. I said, "She saw me at my lowest and decided I was worth saving. Because of her, I got to have a life. Because of her, hundreds of other children got to have lives too. She showed me what real strength looks like. Not the absence of fear, but the decision to love anyway. To help anyway. To keep fighting anyway." Jordan held me while I sobbed at the reception. Sarah, now old enough to sense my pain, patted my face with her tiny hands. "Mama sad." "Yes. Baby. Mama's very sad. But I'm going to be okay." And I was. The grief was crushing, but it didn't destroy me. I mourned deeply, honored her memory, and kept living. Because that's what she would have wanted. That's what all my healing had been for. To be resilient enough to face loss without falling apart. I expanded the Morrison Vance Center, opening branches in 3 neighboring cities. We helped over 500 children in our first 5 years. 500 kids who might have fallen through the cracks, who might have believed the lies their abusers told them. We gave them therapy, legal support, safe housing, educational resources. We gave them what Mrs. Morrison gave me a chance. On the 10th anniversary of Victor's sentencing, I did something I never thought I'd do. I wrote him a letter. Not because I wanted reconciliation or forgiveness, but because I wanted to say what I'd never gotten to say. "Victor, I'm writing this not for you, but for the girl I used to be. The one who needed someone to tell her it wasn't her fault. You were supposed to protect me. Instead, you hurt me in ways that took years to heal. You stole my childhood, my innocence, my ability to trust. But here's what you didn't steal. You didn't steal my strength. You didn't steal my capacity for love. You didn't steal my future. Everything good in my life exists despite you. Not because of you. I built myself from the ruins you left. And I want you to know that I won. Not because you're in prison, but because I'm free. I'm free of your voice in my head, telling me I'm worthless. I'm free of the fear that kept me small. I'm free of the shame that was never mine to carry. I have a husband who loves me, a daughter who thinks I hung the moon, a career that matters, a life full of people who see my value. You will never have power over me again. This is the last time I will ever think about you. You are nothing to me now. Just a cautionary tale I share with kids who need to know that their abusers don't get the last word. I do. And my last word to you is this. I won. I never sent it. Instead, I burned it in my fireplace, watching the words turn to ash. Closure. I'd learned didn't require the other person's participation. It was something you gave yourself. Now, at 36, I wake up most mornings without fear. I have breakfast with my family. I go to work knowing it matters. I come home to a husband who sees me, really sees me, and loves what he sees. I have friends, community, purpose. I still have scars. I probably always will. Sometimes I see a father and daughter at the park, and I feel that old ache for what I never had. Sometimes I wake from nightmares where I'm 14 again, cold and afraid. Sometimes I catch myself working too hard, falling into old patterns of trying to prove my worth. But those moments are fewer now. And when they come, I have tools to handle them. Therapy, meditation, journaling, Jordan's steady presence, Sarah's joyful laughter. I have a support system that reminds me I'm not alone, that I'm not that scared kid anymore. Last week, a reporter asked me how I'd overcome my past. I thought about it for a long time before answering. I didn't overcome it, I said finally. I integrated it. My past is part of me. The abuse, the survival, the healing. All of it made me who I am. But it doesn't define me. I define me. And I choose to be someone who turns pain into purpose, who breaks cycles instead of perpetuating them, who loves fiercely because I know what it's like to be unloved. That's my story. Not a tale of revenge, though I got justice. Not a tale of forgetting, because some things stay with you. It's a tale of transformation, of taking the worst thing that ever happened to me and refusing to let it be the only thing that happened to me. If you're reading this, and you're in that dark place I used to inhabit, please hear me. You are not what was done to you. You are not the lies your abuser told you. You are not broken beyond repair. You are a survivor, even if you don't feel like one yet. And survival is just the beginning. Healing is possible. Joy is possible. Love is possible. A life that doesn't revolve around pain is possible. It won't be easy. There will be days you want to give up. Days when the past feels more real than the present. Days when you wonder if you'll ever feel normal. But keep going. Keep fighting. Keep believing that you deserve better. Because you do, there are scars that never fully fade. But there are also scars that become testaments to your strength, reminders of battles won, proof that you survived what was meant to destroy you. And Harper Vance, once a terrified child convinced she was worthless, became a beacon of light for other lost souls. Not despite her scars, but because of them. So I ask you now, have you ever had to face the demons from your past? Have you ever had to choose between staying stuck in pain or taking that terrifying first step toward freedom? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, hit that like button and subscribe, because your story matters too. Your healing matters. Your future matters. And just like mine did, it starts with believing you're worth fighting for.